Bones, the first ever Double Crown champion. Bones, the leader of the Necro Zoo. And don't you...
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my DC action figure collection. Now this time we will be taking a look at Aqualad from McFarlane's Page Puncher line. Now this is an offshoot of DC Direct and also a companion line to DC Multiverse. Now there has been a couple of waves released from this line. I have done some. I ended up buying the complete wave of Flash and I never did the review. I only did the review of Gorilla Grodd, so that's kind of weird, but that's how it goes sometimes. But I did review Aquaman from this wave, and I was really surprised at the sculpted detail that Aquaman had. So I wanted to go ahead and take a look at the Aqualad. Now this is a character that we don't really have too many figures of, and I'm actually really excited to take a closer look at him. Now he does look pretty level-headed in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now, as stated before, this is not DC Multiverse, but it is an accompanying line, and the figures do fit right in with your DC Multiverse line. Now, these are not always really needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. He also comes with a data file card. On the front, you do have an image from the source material comic. Pretty nice artwork, actually. And this is the inspiration for this figure. And on the back, you do have some information. Pretty cool. We'll add this to the collection. You also do get a comic book. This one, the waves now are different because before they all came with the same comic. Now, they do come with the same comic, but only the covers are different, which is an added little incentive to get the comic. It's just a different cover. It is the same inside as the original Aquaman one. So I'm just gonna leave the Aqualad one in package for now. Now he does come with some accessories. He actually comes with some pretty cool just hilts of his blades. Now the blades are more of a construct with water that Aqualad uses, but they do go sheathed into his back, and it's a pretty nice design where if you want him to have these stored in, it looks like he has his weapons stored away. But then he also does come with these awesome looking swords. They do use water to make their blades. Now I'm not too versed in the whole Aqualad character and exactly how his powers work, but these look pretty awesome for posing and taking some action photos. Pretty cool. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at them. First impressions, really loving the way McFarlane is starting to branch out into the whole DC multiverse. No longer can we really say that McFarlane makes just Batman. Now I know there's still a lot of worms out there that'll keep saying that, even though it is far from true. I have tons of figures that are not Batman, and as expected, I've been here since figure one, and I always expected for the line to fill out nicely. They do say patience is a virtue, and I always live by that rule. You just gotta hold on and you will get everything that you have coming to you. Now this figure looks really awesome. Just from the first impressions, love the design, love the colors that they chose. The orange and then the like aqua blue for his tattoos. just the design of the whole costume, and that all even ties into the head sculpt. Love the Atlantean belt that he has at the bottom. Just all in all, an awesomely designed figure. And at a first glance, he does look like he's going to become one of my favorite figures. Now, I do say that every time I review a figure, but I have to be honest. And if I do come across a figure that I do not really particularly enjoy, I will let you know. Now, as I said, taking a look at his suit, you got some nice scale work. This is completely different to the way they did the Aquaman in this wave. And just the sculpt and the attention to detail. He even has like some little parts on his rib cage that tie into the front. And like I said, that Atlantean belt really set off the costume. Gives it something there in the center that like pulls your eye there and just really pops. Now let's take a closer look at the head sculpt. I have heard different things, but this is the first time I'm seeing it up close, and I actually really love this head sculpt. It does match a lot of images online, and one thing I will say is this is basically like my hairstyle, except I don't have like curls or dreads or anything like that, but this is the way I cut my hair. Every once in a while I will sport a devil lock. But yeah, love the head sculpt. They really textured it out nicely. And I feel like they should have went this route with the Static Shock figure. That head looks so like bulky and it just didn't do the figure justice, but this one does look really good. You got some cool intense eyes. I've heard a lot of people saying like that he has eyeliner or lipstick and stuff like that, but this is an Atlantean. They are going to have different customs of how they dress and how they prepare for battle, so I like it. It looks really good and it's distinctive to this character. Let's take a look at the articulation. It does look down really well. Oh, looks up as well. Awesome. Could get a lot of cool figure photography from this guy. Love the way the hair drapes over one side. You got right to left, and you can tilt his head for some character. Awesome head sculpt by McFarlane, and the articulation is nice and smooth, and you get a lot of range out of it. Let's go down and take a look at the waist articulation. You do have side to side. You got the full tilt-a-whirl at the waist, and it's really tight and nicely put together. You got a lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel. You can twist them, get them in some cool action poses. Let's take a look at the crunch now. It's pretty much, there's nothing. I mean, it's real slight. You can kind of like use his hips to bend them forward a little bit, but yeah, that crunch is not there. I really wish they would be more consistent with the crunches. I just went through a couple of figures and it was the same thing. Like 4 figures had good crunch and then 2 didn't, and then 2 other ones did, so it's really inconsistent. But but one thing I will say, in all honesty, even though he doesn't have a crunch, just the way the abdomen is set up is so clean. There is no gaps at all. It just looks like the sculpt is not broken up at all, even though it has a lot of components to the waist and abdomen and the chest. Awesomely constructed figure. I'll give him that much. Now you can lean him back for some swimming poses, which is always appreciated. Let's take a look at the shoulder joint. You do have that socket and bushing McFarlane shoulder joint, which gives you a lot of range. You still get up and down at the shoulder, front to back, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows that look pretty clean, pretty well executed. Going down from the scales on the shoulder, you got the tattoos running down the arms, and they really stand out against the darker skin, and moving down into a gripping hand. Now another thing is this sculpted out wrist ball joint that McFarlane uses. Now he has various ones. He still uses the regular ball joints, but they're usually well hidden. But there are other wrist joints that do not look like this, which has like a really big hinge to it. I still like it. You get the 4 ways of rotation, and that always helps with holding weapons and putting them in different poses. But I would just wish that they would pick one design that really works good and doesn't break up the sculpt and still gives that 4 way of articulation, and just kind of use that one and like change the size of it to go with the different figures. But as we know, McFarlane is always advancing and changing the design. So sometimes for the better. On the other side, you have the same thing with the gripping hand. Pretty nice. Put him in a T-pose rather simply. Could go a little bit higher. And you can move his arms above his head. Let's go ahead and move down to the thighs. He does have thigh swivel. Now if you want to, you can actually heat this up and it'll loosen it up a little more. And the more you move it back and forth, it'll, break it up, and then you'll get a lot of hip swivel, which in turn allows you to move the foot back and forth without having any thigh cuts. And you could use that hip pivot to get human rotation at the hip. You could kick up really high, kick back as well. Now do not be afraid to push the trunks. They are made of rubber and they're made to flex and move and to give you more range at the hips. And when you put them back, they actually go back to their original shape. So do not be afraid to get the full range out of these legs. You can pop out his knee. He does have that sweet McFarlane hip rotation. Does have double jointed knees, but you can't get it all because of the fin in the suit actually hits behind his hamstring. Straighten them out. You have up and down at the ankle, right to left, rocker, and toe articulation. Before we go, let's take a complete look at the lower body. Pretty simple design. McFarlane can use these legs, I would say, for other characters aside from the fins, but this is a pretty clean sculpt, not too much texture or any piping lines or anything like that. But they do look well proportioned to the whole figure, and you do have those ankles that are awesomely sculpted. Now, I want McFarlane to use these ankles. These are not like the wrist ones. These are perfect. He's been using these for a while and they work exceptionally. And I really love the tone that they put around the bottom of the feet. Just gives it that accent to the costume that matches it back up with the orange at the top of the torso and then goes down to the bottom of the feet and accents it really nicely. Taking a look at him from the bottom, no tread and no identifying marks. Moving up the back, simple sculpt, nothing too exciting, but he does have the traditional Atlantean fins on the calves, up into the backside, a little bit of belt there. I think they could have done gold around the whole belt just to give it some life. I might end up doing that. It would probably look pretty good. Have to look at the images from online just to make sure. And then going into the back. Now he does have this pack on his back. I'm not sure how that powers his swords, but it does. And you do got the scales sculpted out throughout the back. Pretty nice figure, pretty awesome. I like it when McFarlane puts out figures that you don't really see a lot. So this, of course, is one of those. Now you can get the handles for the blades and put them into that little backpack that he has, the power source. And that way it actually looks like they're, holstered. And if you want, you can remove them and actually put the swords in his hands. And that way you could put them in some fighting poses, or there's just tons of possibility with this guy for posing, putting them in, fighting stances against enemies, or putting them side by side with some of the other teen characters that McFarlane has given us. But all in all, actually really a good figure. I'm really happy with him. The sculpt work is awesome. The paint is, for what it is fine. They really focused on the head and on the tattoos. The other paint is minimal, but the sculpt work is really detailed. So, pretty nice. Now, the only other version of this Aqualad that I actually have is this, Young Justice Mattel Aqualad, and you could see the similarities in the character, but this is a more, early 2000s version of the character, just a different take on him. And then we do have the Aquaman from this wave, which was a big standout for me. I really enjoyed that Aquaman. I do think I still want to go back and paint up some of the armor and add some wash, like some dark wash, where we'll probably make the armor, like the engravings and all the detail he did into the armor, make it pop out. But that's another thing I'd like to do. Now, I did want to do something before we go, which is kind of referencing back to what I said during the whole review, and that's that let's start bringing out like all of these figures that McFarlane has released. It's hard to put them all out here, but I'm going to try the best I can. But you have Tim Drake, you have Beast Boy, Wallace West Flash, one of my favorites, which was early in the line, Superboy Prime. Let's get the recent Nightwing from the big Beast Boy wave. One I just did, which was the Connell Superboy. One of my favorite figures that I've looked at recently, Impulse. You got your Jonathan Kent. Yeah, still going. You have the Signal, Duke Thomas. Another cool figure, Static Shock. And then last but not least, another one of my favorites, which was Roy Harper, Arsenal. And just look at all these teen styled figures. There's other ones that I didn't put up here, but just look at this. This is what we've gotten so far in this line, which I'm really happy with. There's more to come. We know McFarlane has extended the license probably past 10 years. So we're in for a bumpy ride. We'll get a lot of cool figures. This Aqualad is awesome. He looks pretty good. Love the different colors. Love the different style of character. Love to see McFarlane expand the line. He's going to look awesome up there on the shelf. But you guys, keep hunting out there. Keep collecting. Keep customizing. And I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.